Good morning, everyone. It is still morning. I'm your founder, Phil Monk. I started We the Undersigned about 18 months ago to try and raise a legal challenge against the government's prohibition of cannabis and its denial of our fundamental human rights to choose cannabis if we wish. I'm just going to give a little update of Product Earth. I'm still in quite a state of recovery from it, so you'll have to excuse me if you can, please. I've written up brief notes, and I'm still actually not able to function mentally and physically adequately to fully update. The first thing I need to do is thank everyone that helped me, because without your help, WTU would not have been able to have a stall at Product Earth, and it would have physically, completely and utterly destroyed me. So a big thank you to so many people. I can't possibly list them all actually, because so many people helped me, old friends and new, complete strangers now that I consider friends for the level of help and compassion that they shared with me. It's heartwarming, and also a big thank you to the CBD, to Product Earth themselves. So I'm in a blur of campaigns and events. A big thank you to Product Earth as well for giving WTU the information stall. It didn't cost us anything. We wouldn't have been able to go there if it had. It literally cost us the petrol to get us there and the money for the insurance that we had to pay. So, without that act of kindness from Product Earth, we the Undersigned would not have been there to share our word. I am very fortunate. I'm trying to go through it. It's a very long time because I arrived on the Thursday and we left on the Sunday. And I've got to say, it was one very demanding 4 days. I took so much cannabis in those 4 days, it would have put a horse to sleep, or even an elephant. Capsules, balms, dabs, flowers, so much. I took a lot myself. Other people there were a few businesses there that have met me before, so they just, every time they walked past me, they'd put 2 capsules in my hand, and they kept me moving. Without those capsules and without that generosity, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I did have my beast with me, which is my electric scooter. It's not the typical mobility scooter, but it's the one that works for me. So I went round on the beast, and she made it possible for me to get about a bit more. But it's not a place for the sick and disabled to be going, really. Met some great people. One of the first people I happened to bump into, I think it's the only person I managed to video, actually. I had intended to do lots of live feeds, but I had a technical issue and wasn't able to do them. But I met Swami from America, who is a lifetime cannabis activist, spiritualist, and it was an absolute privilege to get and sit with him. I also met many other activists, great activists and campaigners, and also business people. So the Ali Bongo team, for example, they've supported WTU with donations for our raffles to generate money for our campaign. I got to meet the team. It was great, to actually meet the team at last. So I got to go out and meet various businesses that we've been interacting with and to develop new relationships. We've got a pile of raffle donations for you guys that you wouldn't believe. We've got some huge grow nutrient sets to raffle off at Know Your Roots with soil, vapes, pipes, bongs, tins, grinders, scales, t-shirts, seeds. I can't even remember, but we've got a huge box of things, all for you guys. It's going to be raffled off over probably at least the next 6 months, if not even longer. I'll ration it out as long as we can to keep it going for as long as possible, to make as many winners as we can. I also had a great chance to meet up with Greg and Clark French, who, we often don't get a chance to talk. So I got to go and sit outside and have a spliff with Clark French. That was very nice. Got to appreciate one another's flowers, and got to talk about the campaign, history, past and present, and where the future might go. And it was a very interesting time to talk. We got to talk about the potential of forming the UK Canna Coalition for Justice, amongst the activism groups, the businesses, the social clubs, the compassion clubs, and the consumers as well. We all need to unite now as one and start standing up for our rights. What else? I was really tired. It's so difficult to think of anything. I was very grateful, actually, because Greg unexpectedly had the opportunity to have a panel on the stage on Saturday, I think, at 5 o'clock. And I was very appreciative of the fact that he came up to me and said, "Come on, Phil, let's go on the stage. We've got a last-minute panel that we can go on." So, I was really touched by that because, Didn't need to do that, and there's no obligation to us or anything. I wouldn't have been any the wiser. So I was really grateful for Greg to give myself, Callie, Ace, Ags, and Gary a little chance to say our piece. Me being me, I say a lot, and I went on and on and on, and next time people need to kick me in the shin and say, shut up, Phil, move on to the next point. But it was good just to have that opportunity, to have that platform, to have a soapbox. I often think of it as a soapbox. Good morning, Jazz. I'm so sorry I didn't see you and your brother Iram there. Really sorry. I walked past you, you were mid-chat, I was mid-chat. I thought we'd bump in again, but we never did. So that is the best thing about these events, actually, is we get to meet up again and see one another, all the different friends that we make throughout it all. I'm just trying to remember everything I wrote down. My head really isn't a shed. My body's not great. I've got to say I'm not as bad as I have been in the past, and that is directly because of the level of help that we had. I couldn't believe how many people were helping us. Because I was only allowed 3 volunteers. We were given a 3x3 stall with 3 volunteers. So it's that me, Lou, and Rocky. Next time, me and Rocky can't count as that body count because we're useless. So we shouldn't count on the body count. But lots of other people who were already in WTU came to the event and helped, and also people that we'd never known before that just camped in the vicinity. Colin was the chap particularly, and made some great friends from up in Scotland. Excuse me a minute. It was just so nice. I can't explain it enough how nice it was for strangers to become friends. I can't do this for much longer on a physical level. It broke me, packing the car, setting up, unpacking. It fucking breaks me, right? So I can't do lots of these events, really. I'm going to have to start restricting what I accept and what I don't accept. Ideally, what I could do with is making a training package so we can have different teams of us around the country who are able to go and host these stalls, so it all doesn't all land on Phil Monk, basically, and so that other people can go out and share our knowledge and our vision for the future. So it would be good if we could do that, actually, to increase it so it wasn't just me, because I can't cope with this. Right, I've got a lot more to do. I have the solicitor. The WTU solicitor is coming to my house for a consultation as such, a meeting, because we have a lot to discuss of where we're going and how we're going to go there. He did ask me if I wanted to go to London or if he wanted to come to the house. I did mention that if coming to the house involved an extra cost for the WTU, then I would have to travel to London because we couldn't incur that cost. And I'm happy to say that the WTU solicitor is travelling up to my house from London and is not charging WTU for the privilege. So, it's a bit of pro bono work is what I'm saying. So I was really glad about that, because to travel to London, again, it's everything I do just kills me. So it's good not to have to travel. He's going to come to my house. We're going to have at least a couple of hours discussion, I anticipate, about what we've done so far, things that we can do in addition to this court case as well. So I've got lots of ideas, the UK Canna Coalition for Justice being just one of them. That isn't my idea, by the way, so I'm not claiming ownership of that. It's an idea that's come from America after the US Congress debate about cannabis scheduling and the demand for it to be descheduled from the schedules. All the reform groups of America, they joined together and made the Federal Marijuana Coalition for Justice. Now, we can't have that in the UK because it's not contextualised to the British setting, but we can have the UK Canna Community, the UK Canna Coalition for Justice. So we can still make an equivalent. And what they did was make a 2-page document. The first page of the document basically rips prohibition to shreds and pulls out all the faults of the policy. And then the second document made their demands for how the government can make reparations for the harms that they've caused through prohibition. So I have spoken with Carly, with Clark, with Greg, and I can't even remember many other groups as well, businesses, because we need to get this coalition going in the UK. We need to challenge the law. The law is ineffective. The law is causing more harm than it is preventing. So we need to find a way to challenge that. And then on a final note before I go, We must have about 3 days. I think it's got to be 3 days left on the case study surveys. The WTU case study surveys is your opportunity for you to tell your experiences with cannabis, good, bad, whatever, just the truth. And that will be helped towards the case that we are going to challenge. And then, so I'm just seeing a question. Paul James, can you explain that question? Who thought of them? Greg or Clark? I don't know what your question is. Sorry, Paul, I can't answer that. Make it clear and I'll try. I forgot what I was saying because I read that question. Sugar. The survey, yeah, just got a few days left on the survey. So they only identify marker as an email. Feel free to set up a unique email just for the survey if that makes you feel more secure. No name, no address, no postcode, no date of birth. There's no other details apart from an email address. And that is literally so that we can come back to you to give you any correspondence, and also so we can check for you if you suddenly, not sure if it's submitted. We're actually able to check through a list of emails to see if your case study was submitted. They'll all be kept in private between myself and Monica, who's assisting with the case study. So it's just us two. We're the only people with eyes on, and it will all be kept in confidence. We'll eventually go to the legal team. I've been asked to select 5 of the most compelling, convincing and heartbreaking stories, so that we can put those at the front of the case, and all the others will be kept behind them, basically, as the backup. So that means I'm going to have to read through all of these cases. The last I read yesterday was 623 submissions, which interestingly, it's exactly how many submissions Professor Mike Barnes had for his survey in 2016. I'm not sure if that number has increased today. That was just yesterday's number. I haven't been able to use my laptop since getting home because I'm physically not able, which is why I've not been able to go on and do anything. So once I can start using my arms a bit more, I will go back on it and get things going. I anticipate after the 1st of September, I'm going to have to stop for a week. Literally, I'll have to stop doing anything for a week so I can read all these case studies, because I've got to read through them all to find the 5. So if you haven't yet had the opportunity to tell your kind of journey, please do so. Someone's just said, I bet you're exhausted. Exhausted doesn't even begin to describe it, Mandy. Yeah, I'm pretty exhausted, pretty broken, mentally and physically, and financially. But in the name of freedom and equality, it's got to be done. And now I live in constant fear of my door being smashed in, right, of losing my home, losing my income, losing my family, all because I choose cannabis instead of alcohol and pharmaceutical drugs. That is the only thing that I do that is wrong in our society, So I want no one else to have to live in that fear. Literally, that's all I've ever wanted, is for me not to have to live in that fear anymore, or my family, because my family live with that fear too, and for no one else in the country to have to live in fear of having the door smashed in because they use cannabis, or being arrested because they use cannabis or choose cannabis, and for people to be able to grow their own cannabis of their own varieties for their own purposes, whatever purpose. And for people to be able to go to a shop and to buy cannabis, or to be able to go into a cafe and consume cannabis. That's all I've ever wanted. For people to be able to go to a chemist and get a prescription for cannabis. I don't see why these are unreasonable requests, to be able to get cannabis on prescription, cannabis in like an off licence, to be able to go and sit and consume cannabis like in a pub, or buy it like your fruit and vegetables, grow it in your garden like home brew, home veg. I don't know. Someone's asking me why 5. Someone's saying why 5 surveys. That question is going to be, I'm presuming. I was initially asked for 3, because bear in mind, as far as the government's concerned, you only have 2 types of cannabis consumer: medical, recreational. So I was asked to find 3 case studies, the most convincing and compelling. And I said, absolutely no, we need more than that, at least 5, because then we can have 1 for medical, 1 for nutritional, 1 for spiritual, 1 for creative, and 1 for relaxational. And we've since also, I've been made aware, tantric purposes, meditational purposes, people using it for environmental purposes. Anyone that uses cannabis to take away their stress, to relax and unwind, is making a health choice. Often alcohol is what is enforced to do this with. People that choose cannabis instead of alcohol, they're making a fundamental health choice to choose a natural herb that regulates homeostasis and maintains much health, compared to a flavoured poison that is 114 times more toxic than cannabis. Government is literally dictating to you your state of consciousness is available only alcohol, and alcohol is poison. It damages the brain, it damages the body. Why should we only be able to alter our mind with a poison? Why should we not be able to use this natural herb that humanity has used for tens of thousands of years to alter the state of consciousness, to nourish the body for food, for clothing, for housing? It really, really frustrates me. So, if I've come home from Product Earth, right? I've broken myself at Product Earth, pushing the message, trying to gain support, and then I get home and I find accusations about me, rumours, and I personally find them entertaining and quite amusing, because in my heart, in my soul, I know the truth, so I don't really give a shit what anyone says, because I know the truth, and when my judgment comes, I'll be judged, and that'll be fine, because I know the truth. But it's interesting, I've had many people accusing me of WTUs backed by Big Pharma and Big Tobacco, which is absolutely hilarious if you really consider it, because I am fighting for people to have the right to choose cannabis instead of pharma, instead of alcohol. So you don't have to take pharma drugs, so you can grow your own cannabis for your own health. That's what I'm fighting for the every person, the freeman of the land, the most poor person, to be able to get a seed and put it in soil, nurture a plant for themselves, their family and their loved ones. Not for flogging for profit, that's a different thing. So I find it interesting how people make accusations against me and against WTU. And all I can say is they obviously don't know me and they don't know WTU. And it's a real shame, because they cause more harm than good. They create distrust and division and doubt. So, if anyone's got any doubt, just Google Phil Monk and you can find out everything about me. I've always been an open book. I'm never a secret. Ask me any question, you'll get the truth, because when I die, my conscience will be clear, okay? Even if that truth will incriminate me, you'll still get the truth, because the truth is the truth. So whatever. I'm happy to talk about anything with anyone at any point in time. So, no, WTU is not backed by Big Pharma. If it was backed by Big Pharma, I wouldn't be going around demeaning myself, grovelling and begging for businesses to donate and support the WTU, because I'm not one for going around begging, thank you very much, but I do that for the WTU cause to get the support. WTU is backed by the poor, the weak and the sick. Yes, Fran, that's exactly who WTU is. We are the poor, we are the weak and we are the sick. We're not the powerful, we're not the corporations, we're not big industry. We're fighting for the freedom of the common man. Not for cannabis to be free. Why would cannabis be free? Growing it in your garden isn't free, because you've still got to buy your seeds. Nothing in life is free, but it should be available. You should be able to go into a chemist and get it on prescription if you've got a specific health need, and you should be able to go in a shop and buy it if that's your personal choice, or you should be able to grow it at home. Now, I don't like the Canadian model, because they've got a list of specific strains. They're approved strains that you're allowed to grow. That means they've set up a cartel to sell the seeds, and they get all the money for those seeds, and they make a monopoly. And you grow any other seeds outside of that monopoly, you're a criminal, because it's an unlicensed seed. Now, that, to me, they might say it's about protecting the people. No, it's about protecting their monopoly, so they get all the money for all the seeds, and no one else can dare access that money. And also, this is the most important thing, from what I've read and heard, there's over 10,000 varieties of cannabis as it stands today, with all the cross genos and everything. So if, let's say, for argument's sake, there are 400 licensed and approved strains that you're allowed to grow, that sounds marvellous on the face of things. 400 strains of cannabis, wow. No, you've just deprived my endocannabinoid system of 9,600 potential varieties of cannabis that will be beneficial to my health and well-being. So, to me, to quote Jack Herer, if you can't grow it, it ain't legal. So if anyone can tell you which seed you can and can't grow, it's a monopoly and it's corruption. And I can't support that in any way, shape or form. Every seed of every cannabis plant should be available for any person to grow for any purposes for their own needs. Anyone wants to be a business, well, we have a system for businesses in this country. We haven't had it for cannabis so far because it's been a prohibited business. Apply for a license, get a business. You know, you want to sell alcohol, you get a license to sell alcohol. You want to make alcohol, you get a license to make alcohol. Same should apply to cannabis, in my humble opinion, if you are selling a product to consumers. If you're not providing a product to consumers, it's got fuck all to do with anyone, if you'll pardon my expression. It has nothing to do with anyone. Just like I can brew my own beer and drink it to my heart's content and give it to my friends to my heart's content, and no one says a word. It's only when you're selling a product and they're losing tax revenues that they get a bit twitchy. So, you know, WTU is fighting for the freedom for all to farm for themselves. If you like that vision, please come and join us. If you don't like the vision, don't undermine us. Just leave us be. Let us carry on with our thing. Because if the WTU is successful, every human being in the country will actually benefit. Right. Oh, I'm going to read these comments before I go, actually, in case any questions. Someone says, I'm fighting for my wife's life by giving her cannabis, and I should be able to do that without fear of getting arrested. That is exactly right. Exactly right. Because for some reason, it's like we've got no autonomy in this country anymore. It's like we have to subject ourselves and give ourselves up completely to other people to care for our bodies. To be honest, I did that, and they nearly killed me 4 times. And since I've cared for myself in the last 5 years, I haven't harmed my health once. So I'm much safer in my own hands than being a guinea pig in the pharmaceutical industry's hands. So for that member there that shouldn't be getting arrested for looking after his wife, no, you bloody shouldn't. And if you do, don't plead guilty. Someone else says, but joining known sellouts and data thief really is something I'm uncomfortable with. This is going to be with reference to UPA. Yeah, okay, let's talk about this. A member here, when this video goes out, not everyone can see the comments, so I'll read the comment out. But joining known sellout and data thief and really something I'm not comfortable with. I can see many more thinking the same. There's enough of us that can come together without joining the UPA or working with them. So what this member's referring to will be, I presume, I'm very certain, will be the fact that Jonathan Lieberling misappropriated medical patients' data. That, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I sat and had a spliff with Clark. We both went out, bumped in, went and had a spliff. And he got to sit down and tell me his version of events, which I've never heard before because you don't get that through social media. And Clark made a convincing and compelling explanation as to what happened and how he didn't have a part in it and how his hands were tied and he couldn't do anything until the moment he did, which was when Liebling was given the boot. I don't actually know the ins and outs. Come and play, sweetie. I don't know the ins and outs of it all. Clark seems like a genuine man. He seems sick and dying like the rest of us and just wants to get his cannabis on prescription. That's just my gut instinct. I don't get a bad feeling about Clark. I don't know about the rest. I don't know who's behind them. There's that much rumour and speculation, but not a lot of evidence. So I don't know. I don't know what's the best. It wouldn't be working with them or joining them anyway. It would be more a case of these 2-page documents being created with common goals and aims and trying to get other groups of the community to come and stand with the 2-document statement. It wouldn't be a pairing of or an affiliation with or anything like that. No groups would become less independent than they are at the minute. There'd be nothing to do with each other other than having maybe 5 core principles that we're all working towards, like decriminalisation, for example, the right to grow. And the organisations that don't join the coalition, then that's fine, they're obviously not in the same vision. So, the ones that come forward will be the ones that believe in the same vision. That's about the best I can explain. I also have similar doubts. There's so many rumours going around. There's rumours going around about me, as well as Clark, as well as Greg, as well as Carly. There's rumours about all of the most prominent activists who are all risking their freedom actually to try and help you guys at home not have to live in fear and lose your freedom. And that's the same for me, for Clark, for Greg, for Carly, and I can't remember all the others as well. We're risking our freedoms by telling our truth, try and change the law so that you don't have to risk your freedoms. So I can't say for definite behind any group, because I don't know. All I can say for definite is behind WTU, and the only people behind WTU is sick and dying people just like me. I'm just scrolling through any more messages. Bless you, Iran. I'm going to read this out actually because it's balance. A fellow member here who has met me several times, so we've had plenty of time together. Phil Monk is a gentleman. The WTU is 100% legitimate and not a front for any big pharma. Let the guy concentrate on the goal. Thank you, actually, because I spent about 10 hours, first 5 hours on one occasion, and then at least another 5 hours on another occasion. What's the word? Disputing the rumours, calling for their evidence that I know doesn't exist. It's just a waste of my bloody time. It's a waste of my mental energy. It's a waste of everything. And also, anyone that reads it then causes doubt and distrust and division. So anyone that starts rumour, right, anyone in the whole community, no matter who they are, right, if they give you a rumour with no evidence, question their motive. If they give a rumour with evidence, well, that's not a rumour, that's a fact. So if they give a fact with evidence, then you listen to them because you've got a fact with evidence and they should be listened to. But when you've got a rumour with no evidence and just conjecture and subjecture, ignore it and question their motives. Why are they causing this division in the community? Why are they causing harm amongst the community? Because let's face it, the more broken we are, the more we are in little factions that don't get on, the less we will achieve. The less we will get against the government, and the more they'll just laugh their tits off at us, basically, because we can't even get on enough to consolidate our aims, even just 5 core aims, to go in one direction. Yeah, and that's what we need to do. So I'm prepared to work with UPA, UKC, Carly. I'm prepared to work with every group really across the board, so long as they're on board with no more prosecutions, expungements, the right to grow anything you want for whatever need you want. As long as we can have these core principles, I'm sure it might work. But if not, we'll know who's who and who's not. Someone says they saved their own life by ignoring the doctors. Yeah, me too. If I'd continued listening to my doctors, I'd now be a gabapentin or a pregabalin addict. Thankfully, I ignored them and chose cannabis instead. Paul James, still working with each other. Is working with each other... It's not working with each other, it's working towards a common aim, and not against each other. That's the way I would express it. I wouldn't be working with the UPA or the UKCC. I just wouldn't be working against them. That's the most important thing. We can all as groups work together a common aim. It doesn't matter if we even like each other, if we get on or anything. You don't even have to. It's not school. We don't all have to be best friends. All we need to do is figure out, do we have the same core beliefs? Are they what we want to achieve? And let's work towards them. You can all have our own other goals as well that we all continue working on. So it's not working with each other, it's just not working against each other. And that's what's important. There's too much working against each other in this community, undermining one another. Someone says out here, I only found out that it's legal to give children alcohol 5 to 16 years at home. And that's correct, yes. It's legal to give your children alcohol from the age of 5 in the home, which is absurd. It's legal to poison your children. But actually, it just sets them up for alcoholism, and that's what they're doing. The study on rats, with 2 cohorts of rats, baby rats, they had 1 cage of rats that had no alcohol, another cage of rats that were occasionally, intermittently introduced alcohol, the way a child is in the home, Christmas, birthday celebrations, that type of thing. And then the adults had no alcohol while they became adults. Once they became adults, they were all put in the same cage, and alcohol and water were put in there. And the ones who had had alcohol intermittently went to the alcohol and became alcoholics. Whereas the rats that had no alcohol in their childhood were indifferent to the alcohol. They weren't bothered by it, which is why I firmly believe children should never be given alcohol. Enough with the bickering, we will never get anywhere. Exactly. Let's stop bickering, agree to disagree, and move on. I'm mortified you can give child an alcohol and it's legal. Yeah, me too. No evidence on youthful. There won't be, Paul. I've nearly been killed by Big Pharma. If anything, I'm Big Pharma's enemy. I'm surprised they haven't tried to assassinate me. Okay, I'm just scrolling through the little messages here in case there's any questions I can address whilst I'm on the live feed. Thanks. Oh, this is something that breaks my heart. I'm not going to mention names, but my ex-wife uses the fact I use cannabis to keep my kids from seeing me. If this was legal, then this thing could not happen. It's not just being arrested that's impacting on my life. And this is also something else that WTU fight against, is this discrimination against parents and children. Because so many children are deprived of their parents because their parents make the health choice of using cannabis. And that, to me, is unjust. You know, I'm not a bad dad because I use cannabis. In fact, I may well have even been a better dad because I've chosen cannabis instead of alcohol. My children have never seen me drunk and disorderly and things like that. So, you know, it is really unfair how they discriminate between the consumers of alcohol and the consumers of cannabis. And it's awful how people manipulate it. And the children are the victims, the biggest victims. I didn't know my dad for 12 years, so as one of those children, I know what it feels like. And what I'd say is just have faith that when they get older, they'll more than likely want to know you, like I did my dad. And I had an overwhelming urge, I got to know my dad, and I came and found him, and hopefully your children will do that with you, my friend. So please keep faith, keep strong, and don't give in. Dark days ahead while you're waiting, but keep waiting. Have faith that they'll come back to you, brother. And challenge it, actually, because if you have a health condition, you've got grounds to challenge it now. If you're using your cannabis for a specific health condition, even if you haven't got a prescription because you can't afford to pay for a private prescription and the NHS guidelines refuse to give you one, you still have grounds really to challenge the discrimination there. Somebody else is saying, most branches of the armed forces dislike each other in some way but respect each other. But when it comes to the battle space, they bury their differences until the battle is won. So should we. That's the perfect analogy of what I suppose I'm trying to do by reaching out to all these different groups. I haven't done a lot, I've got more to do, but my health holds me back. And I'm hoping other groups will start reaching out too. But yeah, we're in a war. The government call it a war on cannabis. There is no war on cannabis, it's a war on the canna community and our preferred way of life. The government are dictating we must use alcohol, cannabis, or pharmaceuticals for our health when we choose cannabis. So it is a war, it's an ideological war, and we are, when I say we, the canna reform community, or even all of the anti-prohibition groups completely, we are all different factions on the opposite side of the battlefield to those who are our enemy. And we're making each other our enemies when we only have one enemy, and that enemy is prohibition. That should be our only enemy, is prohibition. So if every different group that, like the armed forces, you know, the SAS might not like the paras or whatever, I don't know all the different factions, but you know, I can see what this member's saying. The different branches of the armed forces, they don't get on, they dislike each other, they mock and ridicule each other as part of their bravado. When it comes to the battle space, they bury the differences, they work together as a community with united goals against a common enemy. That is exactly what we, the canna community, need to do. Not just groups, but communities, clubs, compassion clubs, businesses and consumers. I'm just having a quick scroll through. If I get to the end of the questions and there's no more questions, then we'll head off. Someone saying that my wife said that as soon as she's strong again, she's going to fight this as well. She believes it our right to use it to help in so many ways. I believe the same, and that's what led me to start We the Undersigned. Here's my little heart patiently waiting. I'm down to 3 pills a day from 8. I was on 180 milligrams of morphine and now I'm on none. It's cannabis. Didn't mean you mean Clark and Liebeling. I'm not sure what you mean, Paul James. Your question's not quite clear, I'm sorry. If you could try and rewrite it for me, I'll try and address what it is that you're asking. Or give me a call, we'll talk through it one way or the other. I'm happy either way. Live feed it, whatever. Someone says, the more of us that stand together and fight to get it legalised, the better it will be. Yeah, I agree. I'm not up for legalisation myself. I'm up for decriminalisation, the legal regulation of the market. Canada's got legalisation, and if you've got more than 10 grams in your pocket, you're prosecuted. So that's not for me. Somebody says here, you're right, Phil, I'm sick of the constant bickering so much it makes me want to give up. I hate it. We don't have to, put each other down. It's so childish. one love, come together. And that's it. You don't have to like someone, you can just ignore them, you don't have to put them down. Okay. Right, I think I'm going to get to the long bottom of it. I've got to get off and do a few things and rest up and recover. How many cases are up to now? My last check was 623, and that was last night, so I'm hoping I'm going to be up higher than that today. 3 days left on the case surveys, so visit www.wtuhq.org and go to the survey page, case study surveys. Right, I'm going to head off now and speak to you all soon. Lots of love. Keep well. Take care.